The Bleacher Report app is your destination for sports. Right now, the NBA's heating up, March Madness is here, and MLB is almost back. Every day there's a new headline, a new highlight, a new moment you've got to see for yourself. That's why I stay locked in with the Bleacher Report app. For me, it's about staying connected to my sports. I can follow the teams I care about, get real-time scores, breaking news, and highlights all in one place. Download the Bleacher Report app today so you never miss a moment.
Last night, closer than I certainly would have thought. 117-112. The Celtics beat an undermanned Grizzlies team on the road, and that is putting it lightly.
I was going to say, that's an understatement to call them undermanned.
Yeah, in case you weren't really paying attention or only just happened to watch the highlights of this game, the Grizzlies had 10 players listed as out on the injury report. You had guys on two-way deals, 10-day contracts on that team last night playing the Celtics, and they played it competitively. I'll tell you, what it had the feel of was that excellent game against Phoenix earlier in the week, where I guess I'm paying that much attention to the Suns. I know they were wretched last year, but turns out, light dawns on Marblehead. They've been one of the better stories in the league this year.
Yeah, that was doing it without Dylan Brooks now.
Excellent game. But last night, I think, was more about the Celtics kind of dicking around than anything else. They should have killed that team.
Yeah, I thought Scal nailed it early when he said in the first quarter, he said, I don't like the energy from the Celtics. And that was one of those ones where you felt like they were looking at it and thinking we can just roll out the basketballs against this G League level Grizzlies team and win. And, those guys obviously played really hard. They're playing for their place in the league to see if they can establish themselves. Tyler Burton, who's from Uxbridge, Mass, so he local guy playing against the Celtics, had a career-high 23 points, was, giving it to Tatum and Brown early, which was surprising, but ultimately they're able to pull out the win. My takeaway from this game, though, was I thought this was the first time that I can remember since Tatum came back that I thought there was some awkwardness down the stretch. He was not having a good shooting night. He was 2 for 12. Joe puts him back in the fourth quarter. The same time he puts Jaylen Brown back in.
He missed his first 8 shots of the game, too. I thought this was the first game you could look at with Tatum and be like, you look like ass tonight.
Yeah, I didn't see the explosiveness either on his moves. He looked kind of deliberate. But that being said, so we're in agreement on the kind of night he was having.
Yeah.
And then this was the first time I thought Jaylen Brown was having a good night, and the ball clearly should have gone to him. And there was one point, I don't know if B-Rob, if you remember this play too, is one point where Derek White came up, and on opposite ends at basically the high elbow, Tatum came up like on Derek White's left, and Brown came up on his right. And it was like, who do I pass to? And he threw it to Tatum. And I'm trying to remember what happened. This might have been the one where he kind of fumbled the ball but ended up getting the layup at the end. But this was really the first time I thought Tatum was like, no, this is like before. It's time for me to take over this game and lead us to the promised land. And it's like, no, it's not your season like that right now. And it's definitely not your night like that. And frankly, again, I could be in the minority on this because they needed the rebounding and the defense, and Tatum was good there. If I were Joe, I'm not sure I would have put him back in the game in the fourth quarter. The way he was playing, the way the bench guys had played to get them the lead, and the way Brown was playing, I'm not really sure he deserved to go back in the game.
Oh, I think that's a fair assessment, but that's going to happen because he's Jason Tatum. But that's where I think Mazzulla, and he's shown this type of thing before. Like, if you're having a bad night, your ass is on the bench. I mean, he's done it to Brown at one point. Yeah, I'm with you on that because he was not good last night at all. B-Rob, what did you make of last night's game?
Yeah, the fact that was the first real clunker, I guess I thought there'd be more games like last night with Tatum coming back. And so that's the good sign of him in terms of it took him this long to look that bad. But yeah, without a doubt, there's questions for where does the ball go in the end of game situations. And I like the fact that Joe Mazzulla had both Tatum and Brown on the bench to start the fourth quarter because the bench was just better in that game in totality. Luka Garza saved their ass.
Yeah.
He did. He had a great game. And Celtics career high.
Right. And then Derek White finally woke up and then started doing Derek White things in the last 8 minutes of that game. So that was one where a couple years ago you relied too much on the starters to let it slip away, and now at least you respect the bench enough in a game like that. Be like, all right, we're going to need these guys 5-10 times a year to carry us to the finish line, and they kind of got that out of them down the stretch there.
But I mean, am I in the minority here? Am I the only one who saw
no, that was
the awkwardness? It would just kind of felt like Tatum went in there with this mindset of I'm going to carry us to the finish line, and it was like, what? You're 2 of 12 from the field, and you ended up finishing 3 of 15, and you're not shooting the three well tonight. You're 2 of 9. Like, what do you mean? Like, clearly Jaylen Brown's having the better night, and that doesn't mean you just stand around and get out of the way, but he was like actively trying to come and get the ball to, initiate the offense.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, this is the first time
It's a great observation.
Up until this, I've been like, all the flowers to Jason Tatum. He's done an awesome job coming back into the team and deferring. I gave him so much credit, just like Mannix did yesterday on Felger and Maz. But this was the first time I was like, what are you doing? You're like trying to interject yourself into this when you should be in the background for this game tonight. And there will be nights when he will be in the right doing that before the end of this season.
But not last night.
But not last night. I'm like, what's going on? What are you doing?
Yeah, it's important to have that recognition. And because this team right now, 12 games left in the regular season, they do not have margin for error to drop games like Friday night. They're only a game and a half up on the Knicks. They have a brutal schedule down the stretch. They already lost a tiebreaker to the Knicks, so you can't just throw away a game now if you care about home court advantage in the second round and beyond here.
So, B-Rob, want to know your thoughts on this, because a lot of the discussion has been, with Tatum back and Brown really feeling himself, and rightfully so. He's been excellent, and the game against Golden State, too. He controlled that game early. It was 19 points, 9 shots in the first 12 minutes. He was driving through, bullying anyone that Golden State tried to put on him. Like, I love watching his game and how he's really, had this phenomenal MVP caliber season. The way he's talking, too, like he's feeling himself. I get it. And Tatum's said all the right things since he's been back. But that play that Chris was talking about last night, it's going to happen. I use the band analogy. If you've been the lead singer all this time, but whatever, you had a vocal cord injury and you were out and someone took over. The bassist took over. And then you come back and you're like, I'm back on my band. And your manager is telling you, no, you're the bassist for now. You're like, okay, I'll deal with it for now. But eventually, it's my band. I'm the lead singer. I'm getting this back. That's going to happen, whether it's in the postseason, whether it's a few games from now. Maybe it's next year. But it's going to happen.
Yes. And so the question is, I think success winning is going to solve those problems for the short term. But ultimately, long term, we've heard Jaylen talk about how much he's liked this season, how he wants
most fun he's had,
just embracing wine and what it'd be like to have my own team. But the bottom line is both of these guys are still signed for 3-4 more years right now, and the Celtics have found money right now this season, next season. So it's going to be on Joe Mazzulla to figure this out between these two guys in these type of situations. It's nice they have 10 games to figure this out in the regular season, but push comes to shove, it's all going to come down to the playoffs, guys. Like, if you can't flub moments like that in the playoffs, like Chris referring to, because then you find yourself in an 0-2 hole like you did against the Knicks last year, where you're not going to have necessarily the margin of error to make up for that. So that is certainly something to watch, and I hope Tatum just continues to have recognition more like we saw in the first 4 games as opposed to what we saw last night.
I just think it puts some pressure on the teammates. You could literally see like Derek White doing the calculation.
Who am I going to make mad?
Yes, in real time. And then later on, and I don't think it was related to that play, because there was a play later on in the game where it looked like Jaylen Brown was kind of open towards the baseline and Derek White just didn't see him. And I think that's what Jaylen Brown was. There was a break and they came back and Jaylen Brown was talking to Derek White. I think he was talking about the latter play, not the former one when Tatum and Brown both kind of came to the high elbow at opposite sides. But still, it just puts guys in a little bit of an awkward position. And I'm not saying it's an automatic. I just think it's a night-to-night thing at this point. And I was surprised and a little disappointed because Tatum had done such a great job of, for lack of a better term, reading the room up until this point. And then I was like, what is this? Like, this is not ideal. This is not good. I mean, if you have an open look or you have a clear matchup, like, yeah, let's get you the ball. Let's do it. Fire away. You're not out there to be a mannequin. But the idea that you're like coming to the ball and it's like takeover, it's like Tatum takeover time on that night. No.
B-Rob, I feel like there's some trepidation from you regarding the Celtics the rest of the way and their seeding. Like, you were just talking about how they're only, a game and a half up on the Knicks. I feel like, maybe I'm just putting too much into this, but after the collapsed lung for Cade Cunningham in Detroit the other day, I was like, well, here they go. This is all setting up for them again. They're probably going to end up the 1 seed, but you think, what, is their strength of schedule towards the end here like one of the toughest in the NBA?
Yeah, 3rd toughest schedule the rest of the way.
Okay.
Wow. And so they only have one, I think, sub 500 team left on the schedule, and that's like the Pelicans, I want to say. So the gauntlet starts on Sunday night against the Wolves. The good news there, like Anthony Edwards is out for that game, so there are some injuries that are going to help them here. But you got the Thunder. You have to go down to play the Knicks at MSG.
You have the Hawks, who even though their winning streak got snapped last night, but they're still pretty good.
Right. All these teams like the Magic are playing better. The Heat are playing better. The Hawks, as Chris, you got them twice. So not that the Celtics can take care of business here. They're going to be favored in all these games outside of the Thunder. But they're not going to have any layups like the Grizzlies and the Wizards of the world down the stretch here. So while the 1 seed could be in play if they take care of business and the Pistons falter, number 3 is very much on the table still. If they even go like 7-4 or 6-5, like that could be enough for the Knicks to hop over them.
All right, time for our monthly check-in with Chris Forsberg. Get his thoughts on how the C's are looking right now and this dynamic between Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum as we're getting closer to playoff time for the Celtics. He will join us coming up next here on the Sports Hub Celtics Show.
Who's watching your network when the threats come fast?
Intra-Systems.
Who detects, responds, and shuts attacks down day and night?
Intra-Systems.
Who powers advanced protection with Barracuda XDR before damage is done?
Intra-Systems.
Serving New England for 30 years. Access, security, trust. Intrasystems.com. Have you called Revise yet? They're the MassSafe partner that does your no-cost home energy assessment and helps you properly insulate your home. But did you know they also offer free estimates on heating and cooling replacements? Plus, their top-notch service department is available to repair your boiler, furnace, hot water heater, or heat pump, whether it runs on gas, oil, or propane. Call 800-885-SAVE. That's 800-885-SAVE or visit callrevise.com.
This is 2026. No more messing around. It's the first day of the rest of your life. Today, you are switching to Astound. Shifting your Wi-Fi and life into a new gear. Reliable, affordable connection. So you can browse, watch, and play like you've always wanted. Because slow Wi-Fi is so last year. Under budget, full speed ahead. That's Astound. Gig Wi-Fi for $50 a month with the 3-year price lock. Restrictions apply. See astound.com for details.
You're listening to the 98.5 The Sports Hub Celtics Show.
We check in with our pal, Chris Forsberg, covering the Celtics for NBC Sports Boston. He golfed yesterday, so we get him today. Hello and good afternoon, Chris Forsberg. How are you?
Hello. And I probably picked the wrong split, right? Today's the better weather day, it feels like, just having been outside for a few minutes. And yesterday the wind picked up and it was cold. But you know what? I'm not going to complain. We are outdoors. We are golfing. It's go time.
The snow is gone, right? No, I can't wait to get out there. There's only so much bay work I can take. All right, so the
do you want to come down to my courses in Connecticut?
Yeah, boy, that feels like a real hike. Where in Connecticut?
It's northern Connecticut.
Oh, all right. Yeah, you know what? I will take you up on that invite.
That used to be your territory, Jim. Those used to be your people, your listeners, right?
Yeah, but that was now more than 10 years ago. I had more life in me then. Now driving like 2 towns over is like a giant task for me now. But yes, you know what? Any time to golf and to hang with you just outside of this place.
I'm telling you, so you can come down to Raceway. You can watch all the cars going by in the background, the burnouts, everything going on. They just renovated the clubhouse and like the bar and simulators. It's amazing. You'll have a great time.
I love it. Thank you for that. Well, last night, a closer game than I think many expected, myself included, against this wretched Grizzlies team who had 10 guys sitting. Celtics do win.
11.
11, geez, okay.
I was going to say, yeah, it was 11. Yeah, it was 11. They were missing 11 guys.
Well, so the Celtics do win 117-112, but with that, there was one particular play that stood out to Chris Gasper. Wanted to get your thoughts on it, considering that I know you watched the game last night as well, and if this could be the start perhaps, or maybe a little bit of a germination of, how's this dynamic going to play out here with Brown, this being Brown's team this year, and the return of Jason Tatum. Take it away, Gasper.
Yeah, I don't know if you remember this play, Forsberg, but there was a play late in the fourth quarter there where Derek White had the ball, and it seemed like Tatum and Brown both kind of came to the high elbow on opposite sides, and Derek White kind of looked at both of them and then, threw it to Tatum. And I thought this was really like the first time, based on the way that he was playing in the game. He was 2 for 12 at that point, 3 for 15, and the way Brown was playing, and they were in a game they had to have execution down the fourth quarter stretch. I really thought this was the first time where Tatum kind of interjected himself, like the old Tatum, into the offensive mix when he shouldn't have. I thought that was like clearly one of those situations where Derek, you could literally see the wheels spinning in his head, like, who do I pass this to? Who do I pass this to? So I don't know if you noticed that play, and I'm curious sort of what you thought of the, I guess, aggressiveness of Tatum down the stretch of that game, knowing he wasn't having a good night and Brown was?
No, so I will go back and check it out to see what you saw. What was the result of the play?
I'm trying to remember. I think it was the play where Tatum kind of lost the ball,
the ball and
but got it back and got the layup. It was like he kind of it should have been a foul or a jump ball or a travel, but it ended up being a layup.
Yeah. So look, and again, I'll go back and try to look a little closer at it. My whole thing was probably, I think Tatum was probably a little pressing after the 0-for-8 start, and I think there's certainly going to be nights like this where as he ramps up, he'll be the body's fighting him a little bit, and he can't do as much as he's done to this point. And I wonder if he's just trying to kind of get himself going a little bit, or feels like, all right, I got to redeem for earlier. I do think, again, for the most part, especially at the end of that Phoenix game, I thought he was kind of aware that Jaylen had it going.
I agree.
And
he's been great.
He's still got his. And I thought, especially in the post game when Tatum goes up in front of reporters and says, kind of felt like old times, Jaylen assisting on that dunk down the stretch. I think it's worked well. The numbers have bore itself out that they're playing at an elite level when they're on the court together. But yeah, in general, I think that's something to watch. I don't think you're out of line for pointing out, a singular instance. And certainly all of our antennas are up about how this is going to work. But I will say, when they came back, and while I pushed back heavily on the notion of how is this going to work, and the over-caffeinated sort of speculation about whether they could figure it out, certainly there's I thought there would be bumps in the road, and it's been almost jarring that there hasn't been. So I think it's invariable that, especially as Tatum stretches out his minutes more and as he tries to leave his imprint more, and there will be potential instances like that. But I got to give him credit. It's been pretty seamless to this point, and the fact that they're at least going into last night, plus 23 net rating, outscoring opponents by 23 points per 100 possessions, that's a ridiculous number. And it's been against decent competition beyond last night, maybe. And I'm eager to see where it goes. I think we'll learn a lot more the next 3 games than we have maybe in this little stretch.
Yeah, I'm one of those over-caffeinated people there, Chris Forsberg. That
it's okay. It's okay.
So, but look,
we got a lot of hours, Jim. We have a lot of hours to fill.
Well,
right?
I'll just say quickly. I think Jaylen Brown and Tatum are one of those. They're among the over-caffeinated, because even they've talked about it and said there's an adjustment, and it's not the best it's going to be.
They've been asked about it a lot, because that's invariably where we go. And look, our shows are just as guilty. It's whether it's early edition or our pregame show. It's a constant topic of conversation, and I get it. I think the thing that I've come away with is, again, I thought there would be I thought there would be a little bit more rust with Tatum, but obviously waiting a little extra long to come back from when maybe he was physically cleared was beneficial for him to hit the ground running a little bit more. And certainly we all wonder, it's just a different dynamic from when he left. And the way Jaylen is playing, would he be okay if Jaylen was in control of a lot more instances of of controlling the ball? And again, I think they've found a good balance, and nothing is more important over the final 12 games here than seeing how they continue to grow and understand where everybody's shots come from and how they maximize and how they make the players around them better. But I just have been really impressed with the way it's worked early on. And it'd be foolish to think that there wasn't going to be bumps somewhere along the line. And that's why I'll go back and watch that play.
Where are you though are you with, see, I think it's like any rational person, though, Chris, feels like it's all a matter of time, because I just, I use the band analogy, and it's been Tatum's team. Tatum's been the focal point, and I know that's probably been a thorn in the side of Jaylen Brown. I think it's clear, because he's talking about, this is the most fun he's had in a season. He's really feeling himself, and rightfully so. He's a legitimate MVP candidate. He's a blast to watch. I like his style of play more than Tatum's, but it's the lead singer syndrome. It's been his band, and now that he's come back, it's all a matter of time that, he wants to stop playing the bass and be the front man again. What's your realistic timeline on this? Because I'm on the belief of it's okay, once he feels close to 95, 100%, that's when we're going to start to see this thing. Or maybe there's whispers behind the scenes, and that could be playoff time. It could be next season, but it's going to happen, right?
Well, and I don't know. I wonder, everyone hits a stage in their career where the success of the team overall is more important than the individual accolades. Now, it never goes away completely. You're always worried about, you want to be an all-star, you want to be all-NBA, you want to be regarded as sort of the focal point of the team. But I think what became clear, especially like since 22, with these guys is that, once you get knocked down at the finish line, was that, hey, like, to make this work, you got to lean into everyone plays their role from, and it goes for everybody that touches the floor in a playoff rotation. So that's on them. Like, if they get caught up in the individual nature of it, it will not bear itself out well for the team. But early returns, I think they've put the priority on, everyone's taking the best shot available. I think there's been a lot of instances where some of the best ball movement on this team has been in the second half of the year. And as long as everyone remains committed to that, it won't be a thing. Certainly if egos take over, like it could bubble itself up. But nothing about what I've watched so far has led me to be concerned. I think we get so caught up in this idea, again, of having to talk about it all the time. And like, it's certainly human instinct to think at some point, if you've been in the clear focal point, that you want to be that focal point again. I don't know if that will bubble itself up until next year. I think Tatum might just understand, like, he's still working his way back, that he might not be at the peak of his powers again until closer to the next season. And maybe that makes it a little bit easier to be deferential in some spots. That can sort itself out next season when you have 82 games to figure it out. The fact that you have Jaylen having learned from his experience of being the one, and now as defenses, if they have to put more attention on Tatum, and that loosens things up a little bit on Jaylen, could be really good for this team. Again, it comes down to, you have to be okay with reading what's in front of you and understanding that you can't force anything. And like, as long as they are committed to that, and look, again, I want to see it against the best teams. I'm really hopeful that Tatum plays against Oklahoma City middle of next week, and we get a better idea of like how they stack up against one of the best teams. It's one thing to do it against teams like the Grizzlies and the Wizards and all that, but we haven't gotten a better sample with Jaylen's ejection and Tatum sitting out the last OKC game about where they stand when they play the best of the best. We'll get more indication as the season goes along.
I did find the play, if you want to go back and look at it at some point. 3:42 to go in the fourth quarter, and it did lead to the Tatum layup there. His third made basket of the game as he sort of drove through Ty Jerome there. What did you think of the defensive effort last night? And obviously the bench guys really tuned up the defense in the fourth quarter. Was it just I know Scal said early he didn't like the energy from the Celtics, and I sort of agreed. Did you think that was just a lack of energy defensively, or a lack of execution last night? For the first three quarters?
I think when you have a lack of energy, it leads to a lack of execution. So, I don't want to give them any outs, but I thought it last week when they went you go from San Antonio to Oklahoma City, and then you come home and you play the Wizards. It's only natural. It's like, what is your motivation going against a team that is clearly thinking about the lottery, and it's harder to get yourself up for that game. And I think that there's a little bit of that last night. You have all these kind of good games in a row, and now, you got to go on the road and find a way to ramp it up when you're looking over and going, like, everybody who most people know on the Grizzlies is unavailable. They're sitting there in street clothes. I mean, that bench was hilarious. They had more guys in street clothes than they did in uniform.
Oh, yeah.
And
Scal was saying it was like a hype team. There was like the Giroux had like a dunk, and like 14 guys came off the bench.
Yeah, like, I couldn't believe they didn't get like a technical.
I know.
It was kind of absurd. And so I don't want to give them an out, but like, again, like, sort of human nature stuff. You understand that it's probably harder to ramp yourself up for that game when you start looking ahead and you think, okay, Minnesota, even without Anthony Edwards on Sunday, and then Oklahoma City, and even Atlanta at the end of the week. So I get that maybe that festers a little bit. I did think when they had to kind of lock in that fourth quarter, whether it was Derek at the start of the fourth, kind of carrying that bench group, or then Jason and Jaylen coming back and getting it to the finish line, I like that they showed they could kind of lock in a little bit. But yeah, it was frustrating for everybody watching that when they're kind of just going through the motions a little bit and not playing the right way. I thought everyone's defensive effort was pretty terrible. Derek for three quarters was as bad, and he admitted it afterward, was as bad as it can be. But they kind of caught themselves and figured it out to the finish line. The thing is, like, as you start thinking about the bigger picture and the seeding, and like, look, their schedule's a little tough to the finish line, and there's no way they're catching Detroit, but if nothing else, for holding on to that 2 seed, you got to take advantage of those games. And so I thought they would be a little bit more focused, hey, let's get in there, take care of business, and get out of here. to let it linger for 4 quarters was a little frustrating. But I go back to it. Like, if it's a problem, I would be surprised if they don't come out with the right energy against Minnesota and Oklahoma City and Atlanta. But the starts haven't been great. I will say that's the one. If there's one thing, they've just, since Tatum's been back, the starters just kind of like haven't been locked in at the start of games. They usually figure it out. The numbers are usually great by the end of the night. But I need to see a little bit of better energy and synergy out of the gate.
I'm a little surprised to hear you say that they're not going to catch the Pistons. I know they're 4 back, but after this Cade Cunningham collapsed lung situation, you don't think that could hinder them down the stretch?
I think it could potentially get interesting, but the problem is that Detroit has the tiebreaker, so you essentially have to make up 5 games in 12, and like that's prohibitive. Like even without Cade, like the Pistons are going to win some games here. I think they have like a middle of the road strength of schedule remaining. They do have a fairly daunting. Like last night, they had a little bit. Like they beat Golden State, right? Like, but like the rest of their run isn't like crazy hard. But there's some opponents in there that have stuff to play for, and I do think so. They're now 6-2 without Cade. You know, even if they were to maintain that sort of winning percentage, you're going to put yourself in position to pretty easily wrap up the 1 seed. So it's going to be more focused on just, the one thing that you start thinking is, and I hate to say it because you never want to like focus on the negative aspects of someone going through a collapsed lung and stuff like that. But what is Cade's ability to be the impactful player that he is? When he comes back, if they draw, like let's just say Charlotte or Atlanta or whoever in the first round, like that's going to stress them because those teams that can score points, especially when scoring becomes difficult in the playoffs, Detroit is not equipped to win shootouts. They're more like let's grind and lean on the defense and let Cade do his thing. All of a sudden you think they're going to have to really work to kind of show that they're the 1 seed and that they can get to deeper rounds of the playoffs. If you're the Celtics, you're thinking, get that 2 seed. It gives you home court in round 2 if you have to see a team like the Knicks. And, if Detroit stumbles at some point in the playoffs, then you might have home court in the Eastern Conference Finals. And again, that's presumptuous all around, but I just think to me, that's the bigger picture in terms of how the Cade injury might play out than necessarily worrying about how the seeding will look to the finish line of the regular season.
Okay, the most important question for you that inquiring minds want to know: what was happening on the broadcast last night with the check 1-2, check 1-2 that was going on in the fourth quarter? Drew and Scal didn't acknowledge it, but it kept going. I mean, I don't know. It seemed like the mic was working. That was the longest mic check in the history of civilization going on in Memphis.
So I don't know if you're familiar with Rump Shaker, but Rex and Effects, check baby 1.
Yes,
yes. I never got a technical explanation on it. I do know that, especially when we're on the road, like game trucks are different and they have to they're checking the microphones in the back for post-game press conferences. I suspect that somehow that bled itself onto the game broadcast. And it's funny because when we sit there in-house and watch it on like an internal feed, I just thought that wasn't going out to the public, and so I didn't even know.
No, it was going out to the public.
It was.
Yeah, and like, look, so things happen. You just got to roll with it, and it's the perils of 82 games, and we've got some super smart tech people that I'm sure will be on top of that. Someone pointed out that as soon as the check 1-2 started happening, the Celtics went on that crazy run.
Of course, yeah.
So it clearly spurred them. My bigger thing was that it was wrestling night in Memphis, and I was just fascinated by how cool it must be for them to lean into professional wrestling. And Lord Humongous was out there. I don't know if you guys are familiar.
Nope.
Memphis is like a storied wrestling
Jerry the
territory.
King Lawler, right?
Exactly. Like that was the big sort of name back in the day. But there was this character, Lord Humongous, who was played by like 19 different guys, and a lot of them ended up in WWF.
I only know Lord. I know Lord Humongous from the Mad Max movies. The Mad Max.
Is that a thing?
Yeah.
I don't even know if that's where they ripped it from or whatever. Again, remember back in the day, like it was pretty lawless. You could just recreate characters without worries about a cease and desist happening. But you might remember the name Sid Vicious, Sid Justice. However you remember.
Yes.
I believe he played Lord Humongous in that territory at some point, and a bunch of others that you would recognize as well. And so you look, just leaning into the history. When you're a team like Memphis and you got to put butts in the seats, and you're trying to give some people a little something extra. So every commercial break, I was kind of like, trying to see in the background of what's going on in the arena and what kind of wrestling we had, and do I know this person?
That's kind of cool.
I need a little something like that at the Garden.
Yeah, that'd be great.
You know.
Yeah, no, that would be really cool. I will say this, just to go back to the check 1-2 thing. I was listening to the voice, and I'm trying to figure out. I'm like, does this sound like Barry? Does this sound like Moose? And I was like, it doesn't.
No.
It did not sound like somebody from NBA. It sounded like somebody from Memphis.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, definitely. Like, and so, like, just to give you some background, like, so there's usually a guy that goes to the podium, and it's usually just either like a cameraman down there or a tech down there, and they just check the mics, and somehow what that audio that's routed so that we can capture it after the game somehow it just ends up bleeding through onto the main broadcast. It's probably just a simple button push. But yeah, like that happens every game that someone goes to the podium and gets ready for the Joe Mazzulla post-game press conference and just making sure everything's all synced up and ready to go. Usually you don't have to hear them doing the check baby.
All right.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Check baby, 1, 2.
No.
It's like a long, sharp sword. Chris, always a pleasure.
Nailed it.
Thank you for taking the time, as
Great stuff,
always.
Chris.
Enjoy the
Thank
rest
you.
of your weekend. Talk again soon. Chris Forsberg, NBC Sports Boston.
Hey, y'all.
Take care, Chris. Yeah, I know a lot of old wrestling, but Lord Humongous, I only know from the Road Warrior.
Yeah,
He's
I was
the
not
main bad
familiar
guy with the he's got like the metal goalie mask.
I've never seen that movie.
Really?
No.
Oh, it's so good.
I've never seen it. I only
Great
know
bad
like
guy.
the Tina Turner song. Like,
Oh yeah, that's Thunderdome.
yeah, we don't need another hero.
Yes.
Yeah.
The Ayatollah of rock and roller. He was one of the great bad guys of all time. Just walk away.
Well, I'll tell you this. Like, I mean, you have to be careful. But man, I mean, both of us are familiar with the '80s, and man, there's so many characters who were so politically incorrect that you could not do right now.
Oh, like Master Blaster.
Oh, there were so many politically.
He's got the mind of a child.
So many politically incorrect wrestling. Everything was basically based on, oh, what do you look like? Okay, you look like you're this. Okay, this is going to be your whole character. The biggest stereotype we can think
Yeah,
of.
I'm guessing that the casting back then you could say casting call freaks. You know.
Yeah, it was like crazy. And now you can't do any of that.
No. Oh yeah, no, Master Blaster. No, he's got the mind of a child. Well, listen, you want to join us on Celtics, old Mad Max movies, whatever it happens to be. We will take your calls at 617-779-0985. Just leave the gas. Just walk away. We'll take your calls here on the Sports Hub Celtics Show and Gasper Murray.
Who's watching your network when the threats come fast?
Intra-system.
Who detects, responds, and shuts attacks down day and night?
Intra-system.
Who powers advanced protection with Barracuda XDR before damage is done?
Intra-system.
Serving New England for 30 years. Access, security, trust. Intrasystems.com. Have you called Revise yet? They're the MassSafe partner that does your no-cost home energy assessment and helps you properly insulate your home. But did you know they also offer free estimates on heating and cooling replacements? Plus, their top-notch service department is available to repair your boiler, furnace, hot water heater, or heat pump, whether it runs on gas, oil, or propane. Call 800-885-SAVE. That's 800-885-SAVE, or visit callrevise.com.
This is 2026. No more messing around. It's the first day of the rest of your life. Today, you are switching to Astound. Shifting your Wi-Fi and life into a new gear. Reliable, affordable connection. So you can browse, watch, and play like you've always wanted. Because slow Wi-Fi is so last year. Under budget, full speed ahead. That's Astound. Gig Wi-Fi for $50 a month with the 3-year price lock. Restrictions apply. See astound.com for details.
This is the Sports Hub Celtics Show.
Sub Celtics Show, Jim Murray, Chris Gasper, Brian Robb covering the Celtics for MassLive. And you, if you'd like to join us at 617-779-0985. And before we get to some calls, I have to get your guys' thoughts on the astrology stuff from Jaylen Brown this week, because we had some fun with it on Felger and Maz, obviously. And look, he's been a blast to watch. MVP caliber season, certainly feeling himself. Well, why don't we just play this first clip here?
Before the game, Joe talked about how your leadership style has involved really getting to know your teammates and kind of learning what makes them tick. What was that process like for you this season? Was it something that you had thought about that you're going to start doing more intentionally? How did that come to be?
Yeah. I mean, I learned a lot about each and every one of our guys, like even down to like, astrology, even down to like, everything. Like I learned like kind of like communication styles that work best for each individual, and started like utilizing that when I speak to each and every guy. So it definitely I didn't know if it would work before the season started, but that stuff definitely works.
Okay, so Cal Berkeley, lectures at Harvard, work at MIT,
cerebral guy,
plays chess.
Does the research.
Yeah. So on the one end, like, all right, very heady dude.
Really into science.
And then this thing,
junk science.
It sounds like, in my single days, any dits that I ever would say in my head while listening to blabber on this kind of nonsense about astrology and numbers and, what sign are you? In my mind, I'd have the conversation saying, all right, I'm willing to put up with X amount here because I need to see her naked. But there's got to be a limit because I can't listen to this nonsense. So a real heady dude. I'll tell you this, Chris. If we're pals. If you, as a guy, same for you, B-Rob. If we were out talking shop, just shooting the crap, and then all of a sudden you as a dude started talking to me like this, at the very least I'd turn around. Like
I don't know, Jim. Have you read your horoscope today?
Well, so here's the thing. I would occasionally read my horoscope as, like, it's a form of entertainment. That's what I've always looked at as your horoscope and that kind of thing as.
Okay.
It's
not determinative, though.
Yeah, it's just kind of goofy. Like, just open it. It was always in the back page or the middle of the Herald or whatever. I would read the horoscope just for craps and giggles. Like, oh, what's my day going to be like today? It's just, my mom was really into this kind of thing. As I said on Felger and Maz, I don't know if you remember, he was on BCN on the Big Mattress. I think he was on Kiss for a while. Do you remember Daryl Martini, the Cosmic Muffin? He was like an astrologist that was on the radio. He was like a big name in the 80s, 70s and 80s in the Boston area. My mom was into this kind of crap, and I remember listening to Daryl Martini, and she would like write him and stuff like this. So it's like, oh, Jaylen Brown and my late mother would actually have something in common, talking about this astrology nonsense as a form of leadership. Again, if you want to believe what you want, but this is one that I was like, huh? Like, you're one of the smartest pro athletes in pro sports, but you're into this crap? Oh, come on.
Yeah, I was surprised by it. But look, if it's working, obviously it's working. I'm not a big astrology person. I don't really know the different signs and all that stuff. It is a little weird. I mean, again, he's a guy that's into science. And then, again, this is kind of, I think it's junk science. So it is a little bit odd, the juxtaposition of the things he's into and this. But I'll just put it in sort of the category of no stone left unturned in terms of trying to take on this leadership role. And if you look at it that way, I think maybe you can still kind of poke fun at it, but you understand it a little more. And it's like, okay, even if this is not something that's having a major effect on his leadership style or the team or the success of the team, the fact that he was willing to look into it and he's basically saying, I'm going to try everything I can to connect with these guys is a good thing.
Yeah, I guess in terms of trying to know these guys a little bit deeper, fine. But I'm also of the belief there's certain things you might not just want to say out loud. Play Jaylen Brown 2, if you would be, Rob, too. And this thing continued as he continued to get peppered about this in his belief in astrology and numerology and things of that nature.
Did you make flashcards?
No, I memorized Mimi's. He's Year of the Rabbit. I mean, so his communication is different from D. White. D. White's Year of the Dog, so his communication style is different. Hugo's also a dog. Peyton's is a tiger. JT's a tiger. Ron is a dragon. Joe's a dragon. Nicola, he's new to our team. He's Year of the Horse. He's Year of the Horse right now. Each of those have different communication styles, and you can go into numerology as well. Like Sam is a 5. I'm a 5. So different breakdowns, and then you can also go into star signs, between JT's a Pisces, etc. I learned all of that different type of stuff, and I was able to communicate to guys in different ways that kind of helped with my leadership this year.
B-Rob, do you know what number you are? Do you need to communicate better with Jaylen Brown? Are you? He's a 5. Are you? What's? Do you know your number?
I don't know my number. I need to work on that.
Might want to get on that. Yeah, I mean, he's a horse. I wouldn't mind a teammate or a friend saying he's hung like a horse, but either way, believe what you want to believe, but there's certain things that you just might want to keep to yourself. Like if you're, for instance, a flat earther, if you want to believe that, fine. But if you as a friend try to talk to me about that, if I feel differently about you and you stop getting phone calls and texts from me, don't be surprised.
Well, that was part of Kyrie's leadership style.
Yeah.
Do you believe in government?
Yeah, no, some of that stuff just, and I'm not a shut up and dribble guy, but there's certain, there is things that are a little too weird, and this one's okay, all right then. But go ahead.
No, it is really interesting, and I think part of it for Jaylen Brown is he's a pretty intense guy, and so he keeps talking about communication style, and so I'm with you. I think this is kind of hokey, but again, I think the intentions behind it are good, which is basically let me try and meet these guys where they're at, because I understand not everybody's as intense as I am. Not everybody's going to take it the same way. And I think it just kind of shows you how sports have evolved. We expect coaches to meet the players where they're at now. But, I mean, can you imagine Michael Jordan doing this? He'd be like, Scotty, I don't give an F what your sign is. Pass me the ball, Pippen.
Thank you.
This is my team. Get out of the way.
I used that example with Felger and Maz, too. Yeah, if Pippen went to Jordan and tried to talk to him like this, or DJ tried to talk to Larry Bird
oh, God.
in the mid-'80s, they'd be like, what? Shut up. And I get it. Maybe I'm a closed-minded old whatever. There's just, I guess the thing that's so surprising to me, Chris, is, again, he's such a heady dude, and his collegiate background, his interests.
Yep.
If he came off as like a incense-loving stoner dude, then I'd be like, well,
if Kelly Olynyk were doing this.
Yes, perfect. Yeah, if Kelly Olynyk talked like this,
because he looks like Shaggy from Scooby-Doo.
Yeah, man. After the game, I try to figure out everyone's astrological sign and number and how we match up. You're like, oh God, of course. Yeah, I guess it just given his interests and what his background, I'm like, really? All right, again, whatever floats your boat. But certain things, again, I think you might just want to keep to yourself. Paul in the car has a thought on Joe Mazzulla. Hello, Paul.
Yeah, well, after last night, Joe's going to be Coach of the Year. That's a game you thought they were just going to pack it in and go, you know what, it's not our night. And he pushed the right buttons. And, hey, Jim, the toe cutter in the original Mad Max was a Morton Joe in Fury Road.
Oh, yes. I knew that. Right. No, that movie's good, too. I haven't seen this second installment of these latest Mad Max movies, but I'll tell you, I like them all. Even though that I recently rewatched, I was telling Chris off the air because, we ended up talking about the Lord Humongous earlier, somehow from Chris Forsberg. That Thunderdome I recently watched again. That's the corniest of them all, but still not a bad movie.
Really? See, no.
Still puts me in my 1985 feels.
Okay. Yeah, I haven't seen these movies. Yeah.
Really? Oh, Chris.
No.
Oh,
sorry.
The Road Warriors. That movie's great. Hell, we might be heading that way with if the precious juice gets to $10 a gallon. That's my number.
God, I know.
If the precious juice gas gets to $10 a gallon, God forbid, we might be living Mad Max.
That's true. I'm already trying to fill up now before it goes up. I'm like little more, just get a little extra before so I don't have to fill up when it is $5 a gallon.
All right, we will wrap up the Sports Hub Celtics show with that. You want to join us on? We'll touch on some Patriot stuff in this final hour of the show. We come back in the 1 o'clock hour, but you want to call us on anything. Celtics, we spent the first hour on the Red Sox. Marcelo Meyer is going to be your starting second baseman. Christian Campbell starts the season at AAA. Some Mad Max stuff. Have at it at 617-779-0985. It's Gasper and Murray.